This week on Dateline Abuja, we are talking elections. Coincidentally, a conference was held this week focused on electoral bodies and their ability to protect democratic processes by ensuring free, fair, and credible elections. With that in mind, we take a look at the planned area council elections in the FCT as INEC just released the timetable for those elections. This is Dateline Abuja. Hello and welcome to Dateline Abuja. I am Kayla Megwa. Let's get you up to speed on the major stories this week from Nigeria's presidency.
Nigeria is ready for business, and its priority is to develop its digital economy and also develop the intellectual and professional capacity of many Nigerians. This was emphasized by President Bola Tinubu when he received the leadership of Flutterwave, a financial technology company led by its CEO Olubenga Agbola, at the State House in Abuja. The President commended the company on its contributions towards developing the Nigerian economy.
Nigeria is truly open for business, and we are determined to remove all obstacles on our way. First of the priority is what you are doing in digital economy, training and retraining of others, developing intellectual capacity and professional capacity of many Nigerians. We need it. Nobody needs to preach about our young population and the excitement they have, ready to learn.
President Bola Tinubu has stated his administration's determination to continue prioritizing the development of the digital economy to enhance youth empowerment and job creation. He reaffirmed this when he received participants of the Senior Executive Course 46 of the National Institute for Policy and Strategic Studies, NIMS, in the State House, Abuja. The President also met with the chairman and some members of the National Population Commission and was briefed on plans to ensure the country conducts a new national population and housing census as soon as possible. Vice President Kashim Shettima says Nigeria is not poor and does not need to rely on aid, including that of the United States Agency for International Development, to grow its economy. He stated this at the meeting with the management of the International Institute for Tropical Agriculture in Ibadan, the Oyo State capital, where he underscores the importance of investing more in agriculture in Nigeria. The Vice President says the government of President Bola Tinubu will partner with IITA to strengthen scientific research to boost agricultural production in the country. President Bola Tinubu is reaffirming his commitment not to disappoint Nigerians as he pledges to sustain the successes so far recorded by his administration. Addressing members of the National Executive Committee of the party in Abuja, President Tinubu says he is grateful to all Nigerians for the recent electoral victories of the party, especially in Edo and Ondo states, and the latest defections into the party. President Tinubu equally expressed happiness over the drop in the prices of food items as he vows to strengthen food security in the country. The Director General of the National Agency for Food and Drug Administration and Control, NAFDAC, Professor Mojisola Adeyeye, has raised concern over the significant threats that staff of the agency face while enforcing regulations and combating fake drugs in the country. According to the Director General, while briefing State House correspondents, she has to constantly have security with her, while one of her staff had his child kidnapped. On the ongoing enforcement operation in 3 open drug markets in Aba, Onitsha, and Lagos, the NAFDAC boss said the agency does not operate outside the mandates granted by the Establishment Act of the agency. The Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, Mr. Nyesom Wike, says the Supreme Court has ended impunity in Rivers State. Mr. Wike stated this while reacting to the Apex Court's ruling on Friday, which nullified the recent local government elections in Rivers State and upheld the legitimacy of the 27-member Amewole-led State Assembly. According to the former Rivers State governor, the decision of the highest court of the land has effectively ended the reign of impunity in Rivers State. According to the minister, Governor Siminalayi Fubara of Rivers State has no choice but to fully comply with the Supreme Court's verdict, stressing that it represents the final legal authority on the matter.
Welcome back. The imperatives of having a truly independent electoral body, as well as regular electoral reforms, was the core of the conversations as former President Goodluck Jonathan and former chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, Professor Attahiru Yiaga, made presentations at the conference to reflect on democratic elections in West Africa. The conference, which was organized by Yiaga Africa and their development partners, drew election observers from the region to reflect on lessons learned from some of the recently conducted elections in West Africa. INEC has also released the election timetable for the FCT Area Council elections, and citizens of the FCT have been urged to prepare themselves to take part in this process. Please watch this. Former President Goodluck Jonathan and former chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, are among the dignitaries attending the Reflection Conference on Democratic Elections in West Africa.
From the lenses of the elections now,
issues around election administration, technology deployment, fake news and disinformation are at the crux of the discussions here.
We're so delighted that you honored our invitation. And we're looking forward to a very robust discussion in the course of the next 2 days. And we have structured the discussions around 6 themes that cut across election administration, the role of technology, disinformation, electoral justice, and more importantly, we also want to be forward-looking and looking at what these implications or what these elections mean for governance.
Former President Goodluck Jonathan is guest of honor, and he underscores the importance of reforms that guarantee a truly independent electoral body.
People who manipulate the system and win the election must be dictators, whether you like it or not. But people who win by the ballot will most likely not be dictators, because you want to go back and you want people to vote for you. But if you manipulate the system to win the election, you know you will continue to manipulate the system to win the election. And that is the reason I'm not a professor of political science, but I'll ask Yiaga another day. And I think that is how democratic dictators emerge. I used to tell people that there are some countries, if you invite me to go and observe election, I will not even go. Because I know the person who will win the election even before the date of the election. So why should I go? Why should I waste my time? And that is the evolution of what Socrates described as democratic dictators. The electoral commissions must be really fully independent. And we must have credible people that, from what like Yiaga is saying, if political leaders who are so domineering over-pressurize you, you must do what is wrong. You should be able to resign and leave. I feel that our electoral processes are too regionalized. The interests of regions, and where the interests of regions overwhelm the national interests, the electoral processes will always be moderate because of regional interests. Sometimes if I listen to the prediction by soothsayers and religious men and women of God and so on, even their predictions tend to go towards their regional interests.
The keynote speaker, Professor Attahiru Yiaga, highlights challenges facing democracy in West Africa.
What are the prospects for liberal democratic representative or electoral democratic development in West Africa? Or should we abandon these as alien foreign systems imposed by self-serving colonial masters, as some people are arguing, people called Afrocentric scholars and politicians? In fact, some of them are demanding, let's abandon all this and introduce what they call Afrocracy, whatever that means. So it's very, very important that we now reflect on all of these issues as we contemplate the crisis of democratization, particularly in the West African sub-region. Now, what I have done, given this context, is to then focus more specifically in terms of what I have identified as the persistent challenges, and then what I also consider as the prospects in spite of these persistent challenges. First of all, the multifaceted challenges facing election management bodies. Elections are key to democratic development of the type that we have imbibed and that we've been trying to practice. And to be able to get elections right, you need an election management body that can do its work professionally, impartially, efficiently, in order to deliver election results with integrity.
The former INEC chairman also outlines steps to be taken to protect democracy.
Citizens, credible civil society organizations, and democratically inclined political actors, what I call drivers of change, should continue to mobilize effectively for credible and sustainable electoral democratic processes in our country or in our sub-region. There has been noticeable progress in the establishment and strengthening of relatively independent election management bodies. They face a lot of challenges, but they need to be strengthened and enabled to be professional in their work and to ensure that they conduct elections with integrity.
Other participants speak on the recent threat to democracy in the region and the need to consolidate democratic processes.
While the resilience of democratic institutions has been evident, there is an urgent need for robust electoral reforms, stronger oversight mechanisms, and inclusive political processes that empower all citizens, particularly women and youth.
Elections in the states in Nigeria have been a great concern to civil society organizations since the Supreme Court granted local government autonomy last year. Yiaga Africa raised concerns over the credibility of these local government elections, calling for state independent electoral commissions to be more independent in the discharge of their duties, while urging state governors to respect democratic principles. In a statement released by its executive director, Samson Itodo, he states that, quote, to harness the benefits of the Supreme Court ruling granting financial autonomy to local governments, it is crucial to extend electoral reforms to local government elections to liberate CX, that is, State Independent Electoral Commissions, from the stronghold of state governors by safeguarding their operational and financial independence, end quote. He goes on to state that Yiaga Africa has been actively working on local government elections and will issue a comprehensive report at the end of October, a period which he says is marked as a super month for local elections. He says the report will be based on the Local Government Elections Index they recently developed, and he's also urging CX to assert their, quote, partial constitutional independence, end quote, to conduct credible elections. According to him, strict adherence to established guidelines is essential for ensuring the validity and integrity of local government elections. On February the 26th, 2025, the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, published the notice of polls for the Saturday, February 21st, 2026 area council elections in the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja. The notice states that the elections will be holding on Saturday, February 21st, 2026 at 8:30 a.m. The venue, according to INEC, will be all polling units in the Federal Capital Territory. INEC notes that eligible voters shall vote at polling units where they are registered, and only persons whose names appear on the register of voters and have valid permanent voter cards will be allowed to vote. They're also noting that the Bimodal Voter Accreditation System, BVAS, shall be used. No PVC, no voting. Area Council chairmen in Abuja have a 3-year tenure, and leading those area councils right now are these men: John Gabaya for the Buhari Area Council, Suleiman Sabo for the Kuje Area Council, Christopher Zaka for the Abuja Municipal Area Council, AMAC, Danladi Chia for the Kwali Area Council, Abubakar Jibrin Giri for the Gwagwalada Area Council, and Abubakar Umar Abdullahi for the Abaji Area Council. With the area council elections in Abuja less than a year away, FCT residents are charged to participate in the process and demand that these polls are free, fair, and credible. My guest on the program is Cynthia Mbamalu, Director of Programs for Yiaga Africa. Cynthia Mbamalu, welcome to Dateline Abuja.
Thank you. Well, it's good to be here.
It's good to be here as well. You've had a busy week, haven't you?
Yes, it's been a busy
discussing
week.
Elections around Nigeria. I want to be able to, because I know your conversations were on a global scale, and was looking at Africa and listening to Professor Yiaga and former President Jonathan talking about these processes. But I want to be able to bring it back home here. And Yiaga Africa has made a few worrying statements recently. Let me start with local government elections. One of the things I heard from your organization is the fact that local government elections do not stand anywhere near what it should be since the Supreme Court judgment. What do you think is responsible for that?
First, I do believe that we do not have independent electoral commission. Even though there's independence in their name, they are not independent in the way they function, in their practice. And the reason for that is, one, there's an overbearing influence of the governors at the state level, undermining the independence and autonomy of CX. Because in the Constitution, they are actually supposed to be independent. And that's why there's independent in their name.
Voter register. The way you said
because the voter, that is a big thing. You know, Kayla, at the national level, we're still talking about the integrity of the voter register, right? At the local level, it's still a big problem. The validity of the register is a big question for us. This week, we released the voter turnout, a study on voter turnout, and one of the findings was a big question on the validity of the numbers of our voter register. Because if we constantly or consistently have seen decline in voter turnout, the last general elections, we had 27% voter turnout. INEC does continuous voter registration exercise, at least from 2011, when we had transited to the new biometric register. We've been doing CVR. But the thing is, we add. What's the process of removing? Because what we are doing is adding. So how many Nigerians have we lost from 2011 till date? Have we removed every Nigerian that we have lost from the voter register? If you think about just how many people we've lost, let's not even talk about double or multiple registration, just how many people we've lost. We've not had a clean system of voter register audit that takes away dead voters from the register. That's one. So many Nigerians have moved. Some of them, since they moved, they've not returned to Nigeria 5-6 years.
But their name is still in the register.
Their name is in the register. These people make up 93 million of our registered voters. We have people that are non-citizens also that somehow make their way in. We're doing a voter register audit, designing a model for cleaning up the voter register. And we brought in immigration into the room. We brought in NIMC, we brought in MPC, that's the Populations Commission, together with INEC, just have conversations and see how we marry together the several data sets. Because we have different databases, right? And immigration has theirs, NPC has theirs, NIMC has theirs, INEC has theirs. And one of the things we're advocating for, proposing is, can we merge all of these databases, right? So that there's a sense of a common source of truth when it comes to data in Nigeria. We've not yet gotten to that stage. What you have in some countries in Africa is their civil register is what they use to also draw the voter register. But to have a civil register, you need to have a census.
Yes.
And we have not had census since 2006. And even that was very politicized and has been questioned so much. And so that is the bigger question. So if you think about one of the things immigration talked about was they actually found out that there are some non-Nigerians who are Africans, you know, we all look alike, who live in Nigeria and who have registered on the register. So they've done a bit of cleanup on their end to identify the non-Nigerian, but it's still not as accurate.
Let's come to Abuja. Look, we're getting ready. AMAC elections. INEC has released the timetable for elections into the area council. I said AMAC elections. Into the area councils. AMAC is just one of those area councils. Correct me if I'm wrong. Our elections in Abuja are conducted by INEC itself. So we don't have Abuja EC.
Yes.
So it's INEC that does the elections here. And then, of course, it's area council elections. Do you find, well, in your view, these issues that we see happening, because these are basically local elections, do you think the same thing you've noticed in other states, do you think it will play out in Abuja as well, that undue influence maybe from the federal federal? Because Abuja is one of those cities with a strange dynamic. For years, you will notice that the area councils have been PDP. And then the government in power, also in Abuja, will be the APC. So we've had that dynamic for a very long time. Do you think that's going to change? Is there going to be some kind of influence this time?
The difference with Abuja elections is that the Abuja Area Council elections is that it's conducted by the Independent National Electoral Commission, unlike the states where you have CX. And INEC has some level of relative independence, which is questionable, but still there's some level of immunity they have from the kind of influence the state's governors have on the CX. And so when it comes to the...
Sorry, it's also pertinent to note that the lawmaker representing the FCT is from the Labour Party.
Is the Labour, in the Senate, which we all know what led to that. There was a movement in the 2023 election that also changed the dynamics of how elections were won into the National Assembly in particular. And so what we're expecting for the next elections, and for Abuja area, for the FCT area council elections, honestly, the bigger challenge is usually logistics. Logistics challenges. That's what we've experienced in the previous elections we've observed here. And then the other is also the lack of citizens' engagement or citizens' participation. And the influence, it's not as heavy as you have at the state level. Why? Because you mentioned the dynamics. You have opposition usually stronger at the local area council elections, unlike you have the representation in the National Assembly. Plus, interestingly, Abuja is usually one state that has consistently been won by an opposition party for the presidential elections. So it also shows the dynamics of Abuja. The bigger question for us and what we're pushing for the next election, honestly, is INEC preparedness, because you cannot have an election in FCT, just one location, and you have late commencement of polls, late arrival of materials. The last election, we had locations where materials by 10 a.m. had not gotten to the polling units where elections are meant to hold. We had situations where beavers malfunctioned. I, for one, had gone to vote, and the beavers was in my polling unit. We were there till 12:30 p.m. and the beavers were still having a problem. I'm hoping that in this next year, the elections in February, that we would have a seamless process. Then the second is participation. It was in Abuja, and we still had low turnout. We have Abuja residents who do not think they ought to vote. If you go to places within Amak, in fact, you go to them Gogolada and Koje, you see higher turnouts.
Yeah, you see higher turnouts there.
Maitama, Use,
Garki,
Asokoro.
Yeah.
It was like it was a public holiday, people were just resting at home. And it made me realize that we don't even understand the power our area council leaders hold and why we need to engage that. I'm sure most of us pay tenement rates. There are several things as simple as street lights. There are several things we call on the Minister of FCT that is not supposed to be the Minister of FCT that would perform those functions. It's actually supposed to be the area council, the chairpersons and the councillors.
The voter register for Abuja, is it the same one?
It will be the same one. It will be the same voter register. And interestingly, INEC would be commencing from what he had mentioned, CVR, continuous voter registration this year, meaning that we may have an increase in the number of registered voters for Abuja. We're still calling on INEC. They need to clean this register, at least ahead of the next general election. But it will be that same register where you voted in presidential election is where you ought to vote for the area council elections. And I'm hoping Abuja residents would come out to vote. We need to really engage the local elections.
And these area council chairmen?
Yes.
We have started talking to a lot of them.
We are paying huge tax in Abuja. We don't even know this. Even
we started understanding it.
Yes. If you think about it, all the petty, the markets, the monies that they pay in tax,
all that
the
goes
bus
to the area
tax, the taxes, everything. We need to understand that these people hold a lot of our resources,
and we should hold them to account.
They need to be accountable for that.
That would be a good place to stop it. But I want to thank you very much, Cynthia Mbamalu, for being with us on Dateline Abuja, and good luck with all the work you have ahead of you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks to my guest and to everyone who spoke to us today on the program. Go get your voter card if you haven't got one yet, and start holding your area council chairman accountable using the social media handles showing right now on your screens. Thank you so much for watching. I am Kayla Magwa. See you next time.